Hi, it's Kittens from that Eurovision site, Eurovision with a Slice of Life, and I am joining with the musical theatre kids portion of the site because here we have Ben and Lewis with me. Say hi, guys.
Hello,
Oh my God,
hello.
hey.
Oh no.
Hi. And we are going to be yapping about the announcement of the Fire Saga musical. We're a little bit late behind the times because we're all too busy. But 4th of June, we heard that they are intending to turn the Fire Saga movie, which came out on Netflix in somebody give me a year.
2020?
I think it was
It was a
2020. Yeah, it
COVID
was
movie.
lockdown, so
Um yeah, 2020. And they have decided they're going to change that into a musical. So it's currently in development. There is actually some people like actually behind it. Adaptation is going to be written by Will Ferrell and Harper Steele, alongside Anthony King. Alex Timbers is directing, and Savan Cottage is, which I've probably said wrong, sorry, is going to be overseeing the music. I mean, with this new news in mind, what are you guys feeling about the film and how it might transition to stage?
There's a lot in the movie that relies, like, thinking of how it transition. There's a lot of things, like the boat blowing up, or a bunch of things that would require such a large set,
hmm
or like the parts at Eurovision. How are they going to do that with the need for a crowd or a hamster wheel running into the crowd as a pivotal moment of this musical? In New York, you don't have the space for the extras or the people to do that, and you sure as hell can't run into the audience. I don't know how they're going to adapt this. Like,
um, yeah, I don't think we're gonna get it adapted truly scene for scene.
yeah.
um, I think as someone who's a nerd of musicals, I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm not expecting a lot for it in terms of reception, especially considering they're planning to open on Broadway, which I find
That is the one bit
bizarre.
that baffles
Most
me.
shocking part. Why don't you try it out in the West End first?
West End feels like the natural place for this to go.
It's also
It's
cheaper.
it's
New
got the
York's expensive.
it's got the best recognition of the brand Eurovision.
Hmm.
It obviously has a grand, like, history with musical theatre. A lot of even our Eurovision entrants from Eurovision from the UK have now gone into musical theatre,
Lucy Jones.
or were in musical theatre to start with. So it feels just like a missed opportunity for it not to be in the West End.
And the West End will take anything. We've had X Factor the musical. We've had Great British Bake Off the musical.
And
So
that
you
was all right,
that was all
apparently.
right.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, I also feel like the West End is for a musical that would be towards the more camp side of things versus New York, which needs to be more serious. The British history with something like a panto and like the acceptance of things out of the norm
mhm.
is better than what it is on Broadway, where you need to be a Hadestown, Wicked, Cabaret, big musical to make money. Like we're seeing this season, like new things that people don't understand. Real Women Have Curves, Dead Outlaw, which is a revival, but still, like the not kitschy, smaller musicals just don't work well.
I mean, so in case anybody hadn't worked this out, Ben is one of our American members of the site. Um, so I feel like this is unique knowledge that you have both in terms of I mean, I've been to Broadway. Lewis, have you been to Broadway?
No.
No.
Ironically, I have not, but I will be there in about 5 days.
I have
So
been Ben the actual like West End.
To be fair, I've
It's
seen
the
shows in Los Angeles, St. Louis, New Orleans, like all across this country. I just haven't been to the actual Broadway.
but the one thing that I know about Broadway is Broadway is incredibly expensive
Oh
to
yeah,
be
Yes.
on,
I've heard that.
and it's incredibly expensive as a punter as well. And I don't know what the reception was for the actual film in America
It
itself, like
wasn't.
then. Like,
Like the only people in the US who I know, I've had a few people like who watched it on Netflix or people who were Eurovision adjacent. Like I had a friend who lived in Belgium until she was 10. And so she saw the movie, but she wasn't really a big fan of Eurovision. But
mm,
not many people were like, "Oh, Ben, did you see this musical or this
yeah,
movie?" Because everyone knows in my friend groups, like I'm the Eurovision person, all that. Only a few people did. It wasn't a big thing. Eurovision is slightly more recognized now, but the name is going to be bringing people to the theaters Will Ferrell and probably any of the stars they get to perform. It's not going to be Eurovision.
yeah. Which brings with it a lot of concerns for me.
Mhm.
Because I think if you did this in the UK or you did this almost anywhere in Europe, actually, it would just potentially feel very different versus trying to satisfy a Broadway audience. I think sometimes in the like in the UK that although we obviously have a long history with Eurovision in the UK, um, in a lot of ways, the movie is seen as kind of canonically part of Eurovision, and
Mhm.
like there is probably more recognition of Yaya Ding Dong, for example, than there is of what the UK entry is this year. Um, and it just seems like a bit of a misstep to do that kind of thing.
Also, like actually, in if you did in the West End for a U.S. audience or especially a tourist audience, which is a lot of Broadway, so people international, not just Europe, who may not know English, may not know about Eurovision, they're going to have to explain what the contest is. You're going to have to take a valuable time from your show to basically stare into the audience and talk about what the hell they're even talking about. Like, most of the US has no clue what this contest is. So even if they somehow think, oh, I like Will Ferrell, let's go into the show, they may be lost on any of the references to the show, which would make up good jokes. Like they can't not reference Eurovision, or else then
Yeah.
it's just losing the context of what it's about. The U.S. audience isn't going to get any of that at all. So you're going to have to basically be explaining the joke to them the entire time. It's it makes no sense.
The thing is, like, I understand with like a lot of musicals, you are kind of the scene setting is such a part of it, you know. Yeah, we have a lot of films turned musicals.
Mhm.
Hmm. That's what's making
Um,
money right now as well.
yeah, and that's what makes money on the West End as well. You know, this is not immune to it. People are jumpy, especially since the pandemic, about musical theatre and about putting new musical theatre out there. I mean, obviously, this has quite some backing.
Mhm.
And obviously it has, you know, this big film behind it. But I am concerned, and I think I would be a lot less concerned if it was starting in the West End.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like when I'm thinking of a casual American tourist in New York or someone, say, from like East Asia going to New York.
Mm.
If I have the option to see Hadestown, Hamilton, Lion King, especially making a lot of money, what's going to make me think of a Eurovision musical and pay probably at minimum 75 American dollars for a back of the theater seat?
Yeah.
I've just booked 4 tickets on Broadway. My wallet is crying right now. Like, these aren't cheap tickets.
No.
You can't, they're going to have to charge a lot to even think of recouping. What's going to make me go out of my way in New York to do this?
Versus
Unless
what
they
would
do an immersive thing, I'm thinking. Like, they have Alex Timbers, which is probably the best director you can get to do a show like this after Here Lies Love did the club vibe on Broadway. But they're going to have to do a spectacle, essentially, to get people talking about the show first. Hope the critics in New York, which don't like weird things, mind you, are like nice to it, and then try to go for an art Tony and not anything related to a score, screenplay, any not screenplay, but
Mm.
book, or any of those, because Lord knows the Broadway League is not going to reward a show like Fire Saga.
And if we look at, say, the thing is, I know the film is, it's technically an American film, I
Hmm.
suppose,
Netflix and Will Ferrell.
but it's like, it's technically American. It feels
Hmm.
very European.
Right.
Yeah,
It is Eurovision. And, while I'm sure there is a lot of American in it, like it's meant to be showing a part of Europe. And, thinking of, say, shows that have been quite European that have transferred to Broadway recently, mincemeat.
don't talk about it. I still have never seen anything about it, and I'm trying to keep myself spoiler free until I see it next Friday or next Saturday.
Oh,
But
I can't wait
we're
to
talking about a show that has not had necessarily the greatest reception over there, just basically because
Hmm.
there's a cultural mismatch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think there is that concern that that could well happen.
Yeah. I mean,
I
yeah.
I'd love to see it. Like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this. Like, I would love to see this succeed because I think that, this would, if it would work, would be a good intro market for
Hmm.
Eurovision, the brand. And there are obviously a lot of American Eurofans.
Hi.
And we
Insert
do,
picture Shiloh here.
yeah. But there is recognition of Eurovision in America, and I'm sure there will be some recognition even just because of the movie existence. Is this going to be enough to
No.
to do this?
Oh no.
I don't
Because just
know.
recognition won't do it. You have to be a Disney level of recognition to get someone to want to pay those ticket prices. Just someone tangentially knowing Eurovision isn't going to want to make them pay that much to go than to take what, 3 hours out of their day on their vacation?
It's
Mm,
a lot.
it is.
Hmm.
I
It's the
mean,
recognition isn't that good in the US.
if they turned around and said, actually, we're not going to run it first on Broadway, we're actually just going to run it first in the West End, and then we're going to transfer it or dual run it, um, then I think a lot of my misconceptions might be squashed on
But even then,
this.
like a success in the West End doesn't mean much, considering the show that's there, Cabaret, did stellar on the West End. Still
Hmm.
running, is run longer than it has on Broadway.
And now it's
It's
closing.
about to close.
Yeah.
It it hasn't been a failure by any means, but it's Cabaret. Yeah, mine's right on the piano.
I'm not much of a program girly. I would show it if I had one, but
Yeah. So like,
I get free programs because I work with the theater.
I mean,
but just a West End success for a big recognizable musical. Most Americans would know Cabaret because of Liza.
Yeah.
mhm.
It's still not doing that great on
Or
Broadway.
even Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of what kills Cabaret is it doesn't have too many seats. It has to charge a higher price
Yep.
because New York is so expensive. If they want to go an immersive route for Eurovision, which is the trend on Broadway, you're either doing a Jamie Lloyd minimalist and having a man in his underwear covered in something at the end of your show, or you're doing something immersive because you have Alex Timbers there and your staging's going to be fucking expensive.
So, I mean, that is a
Like,
lovely segue to actually talk about staging. I mean, we touched on it earlier with talking about how hard it might be to stage this. Um, what do we think people could do in a standard theater, assuming that we get a standard theater? They haven't said anything about it being an
I
immersive
mean,
production.
all Broadway theaters are standard theaters.
Yeah.
You have
Hmm.
to rip out seats to make it look different, like Cabaret and Here Lies Love did.
Uh-huh.
they're going to have to do a small stage. They can't afford a big one. They're not going to sell out a big one. Can they even get a theater is the other question, because the small theaters are in high demand because everything's too expensive
Yep.
and they need to sell out the show. So, like, if they did like a concert vibe, again, I keep saying Here Lies Love because it's really the best example of how this could work on having this a standing room option for one, a cheaper price, two, a more, I hate the Broadway word, immersive experience, but that's really what it is. To make it feel like a concert and not too much like a Broadway show
I mean,
would be a better way of going it.
there is surely an opportunity there for them to make it kind of like Eurovision.
Yeah,
You
have this
know, have your
offer the
standing
cheaper
seats,
tickets.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
Call the matinees the family shows,
try to
the whole
like
thing.
give people like if they could find a cheap version of the little light up wristbands or something.
Yep.
That would be cool.
Because even Eurovision asks you to give them back. So like, yeah, you may lose one or two a show, woohoo. But like, have the audience with the wristbands, give them the feel of being in Eurovision. Put flags around the theater or something. You need to make it feel like a concert, not sitting down for a show and you're just watching it.
And like I've been to there was like a Eurovision musical that was running in the UK a long while ago. I forget what it was called. But it was camp as heck. It was brilliant. And they even had voting as part of the
Oh my God,
experience.
I think they ran this at my local song contest, almost Eurovision. They had this.
No, no, no,
There,
no,
Yeah.
there
no.
is one about it, and Rosie sent me a review from a critic, and it said
Um,
set in the fictional country of Liechtenstein.
the fictional country
Yes, that.
Eurobeat, almost Eurovision. Yeah, almost Eurovision. Yeah.
Someone said it was set in the
Like I
fictional
have had
country of
this for nearly
Liechtenstein.
20 years, I swear. I saw this ages ago. And they had, basically they would stage a Eurovision and then they would have voting and
Yeah,
you would the winner of the contest would be the winner every like so they'd
Yeah.
come on and do like a reprise
Hmm.
and everything. It was really fun and very
yeah.
camp and very stupid. And I mean that in the most affectionate way possible. It was ridiculous fun. And I can kind of, it would be cool if you're gonna do something immersive to do something like that.
But it's Fire Saga, so they can't. Like,
Exactly.
if
This
they
is the
put at the
thing.
end, spoiler alert if you haven't seen the movie, if they did at the end, they sing
Wah,
Husavik
wah,
instead
wah.
of what was their actual song? I forgot. Double
Double
Trouble.
Double
Trouble.
trouble.
Yeah, if they sing the song, they break the rules, they get disqualified. Husavik's the standout of the show. The audience would always vote for Husavik, like or Ya Ya Ding Dong. The whole premise of doing Fire Saga means they can't do something like that. It would be better if they did a ground up something like a I hate this. I'm going to use a Cats-like musical where it's a bunch of artists singing to get a reward.
Right.
The Cats chorus line six, that concept of a show would work better for Eurovision on Broadway than just translating Fire Saga.
Right.
Because then you could make it immersive, have the voting, have something unique, and also feature more Eurovision songs than just the Will Ferrell ones.
I mean, we should talk about music, and obviously we've only got a handful of songs that are
They're gonna have to write more.
currently in Fire Saga. There's assuming there's not going to be a lot of
Salvador
spoken
made it.
word sections.
Yeah, you need some more I once I ams because you really don't have the most you have is Husavik. That's the closest to a theater song. Like,
They're going to
Yeah.
need a lot more music, and that's going to be need a lot more composing. And we need definitely there's going to be like 25 numbers more effectively going to come out of this.
unless they stretch it to be a one act show, which I
Mm.
think would probably benefit this instead of
They could do a six with
two.
it and have it,
Yeah,
if you are running it like a concert, then that could work.
especially if you have standing room. You don't want people on their feet for 2.5 hours.
Guys and dolls. Um,
Here lies
Oh
love.
yeah. That was pain.
we have been there.
Uh-huh.
It needs like the story alone, you can't stretch it to full 2 acts. They did that with Hercules and see how that's going in the West End right now.
Yeah,
Stretching
that's
something that
awful.
should have been a 1 act show, putting in needless songs.
I mean, I think, a lot of this is going to depend on how strong those other songs are.
Hmm.
Yes, you are obviously going to have hosts of it. Yes, you are obviously going to have like Volcano Man and Ya Ya Ding Dong and these classics, which I'm sure are going to stay with the show because I think there would be some challenge if some of those weren't there. Um, but it's and those songs have become like Eurovision classics essentially. Even though they're technically not Eurovision classics at all. Um, but yeah, like it's this is going to, I mean, I hope they have somebody, and well, we know we have somebody, but I hope it is going to be, something where those songs aren't an afterthought. This really needs to be incredibly cohesive for all the reasons we've already talked about.
Hmm.
That there is such a challenge in this, and there is already such a challenge in the staging. There is such a challenge in all of that. Um, I'm sure they will work out a way. I mean,
Yaya Ding Yaya Ding Dong would make an amazing curtain call song.
yeah, like for sure. I can also see them doing essentially like we're talking about like all these challenges about all these improbable things that might or might not need to happen. Um, I could see them doing like a Mean Girls staging where the
Mhm.
entire back is just screens.
It's
Um,
very popular right now.
very popular and obviously brings down a budget. You don't have to have as many physically moving parts. I'm sure there will be many moving parts, because there's got to be at least bits and bobs. But I think it will minimize those kind of things and it will allow the improbable to happen, like boats exploding.
Yeah. As much as like I don't like that type of staging as my personal thoughts on things, because I do prefer the more campy props and when they look fun, it's probably going to have to be staged with something like a bunch of screens to even give a fake audience behind them or around them, or kind of do like what Phantom does when she finishes Think of Me in the 25th anniversary. Christine turns around to the back of the stage and it had screens with a fake audience, things
Mm.
like that.
There's a lot that they can work with there, and obviously, theater is very different. There's a lot of innovation happening in theater right now. So, it's going to be quite interesting to see how they stage this.
Yeah, I really don't know how easily you can if you're adapting Fire Saga.
Mm.
How are you going to stab someone in the back with a knife?
I mean, they're stage knives,
You're
right?
just going to have someone's going to walk on stage with the fake knife and just not turn
Yeah,
around. But
exactly. There'll be ways. Like,
Hmm.
this kind of trickery has been happening in theater
it
since
has,
the dawn of time. It's more the big budget things like
yeah,
having an exploding boat and stuff that is
a
higher
ham,
on
the
my.
hams. They better have a prop hamster wheel. If they do not have the prop hamster wheel, I will freak out.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
I feel like a prop hamster wheel isn't even going to be that expensive in the grand scheme of things, is it?
Right.
Honestly, Netflix probably still has it in their archive. If they keep their
Exactly.
Mm.
props,
I imagine that's going to be something that somebody has somewhere. Um, so let's wrap this up with one question for you guys. We'll go to Lewis first. Fantasy casting for the two leads.
Oh God. I don't know enough people.
I
Let's have a
mean,
look.
go for UK people if you prefer.
we do take a lot of people from the UK, so please.
Will Ferrell. Who's the closest to Will Ferrell in the UK? Um.
I believe my playlist.
Okay.
Oh God.
Okay. Actually, I might take from. I might take from America for Will Ferrell's character. Josh Gad.
Yeah.
um, and then for the lead female, who I don't actually know the actress who played her. Um,
Rachel McAdams?
that sounds about right.
We are
Um,
so informed.
I think it's Rachel. I just know Molly Sandén.
Yeah, exactly.
um, oh gosh. Oh, what's her name? Currently in
Her.
42 Balloons. 1 second.
That is not on my side of the country or
Right.
It's
continent
fine.
or
While Lewis
world.
Go
is
ahead.
working this out, Ben, you go.
God. So honestly, I think
I
Will
don't
Ferrell might
think I
play
think
his
he's
own
a bit
character.
busy.
Yeah. It's the second time you've made a joke in one day. So I honestly think Will Ferrell might play himself. If they want to draw a crowd to get people with recognition, Will Ferrell. But it's not my fantasy, it's what I think is going to happen. As I would dream that they pull Molly Sandén from Sweden for this. She's
That would be
probably too
funny.
busy with her own music, but it would be amazing if they could get her to sing her own parts.
Mm.
That would be fun. If a actual cast I would like. I was literally just looking at an artist and I totally forgot one.
Did you work out who it was,
I
Lewis?
did, yeah. Her name is Evelyn Hoskins. She's currently playing the lead Carol in 42 Balloons, which is currently in Chicago. So if anyone's around Chicago, go check it out.
It would be hilarious if they got Aaron Tveit to play the Will Ferrell character or the Russian. Like I want someone like that. Just the people you see on Broadway all the time just showing up. I actually do think of another character. Joy Woods would make an amazing whatever Secret, I think is her name in the show.
Mhm.
She has a very good voice, can belt like no one's business. I think she would be very well. I would also just with how camp it is, Jinx Monsoon has been great on Broadway right now.
Oh,
Mm,
I'm about to see her in Pirates next week, and I think her voice doesn't really suit the Molly Sandén type. It's good, it's just not the same, but they were just ignoring it's roughly the same range. They just don't care the matching Molly. I think Jinx would be great in that camp type of musical.
I am gonna just add one person because I have been thinking about this way too much because it's only a tiny role in the thing, but Alex Brightman as the Yaya Ding Dong guy
Yes.
would just kill me. Because
They
I just think he'd do
honestly,
great at
what you
that.
should do for that is what they did in Gutenberg. Have a rotating, just bring a random
oh
person from
Yes.
Broadway legend every week, change it out so could have out just someone new. You could
I
have Josh Gad as the Yaya Ding Dong guy one day. Also, Andrew Reynolds would be great for the Will Ferrell character.
I don't know how viable this is with it being on Broadway and stuff, but I almost wish for a show like this that similar to the Gutenberg kind of thing, they have a different Eurovision star doing a cameo of sorts every so often. I don't know.
I would love that to be the case. I think if you are going to say that this is a part of Eurovision and they are clearly capitalizing on it as part of Eurovision, then we need to keep going back to the roots.
Mhm.
Honestly, fuck it. Put Lorene as on Broadway as Secret. She
Lorena
loves New
Secret.
York. Lorene just pops up at a random bar in New York at least 2 times a year. So it's not out of the question.
I think that if
Ooh,
they
Lucy
did
Jones.
not have some Eurovision cameos, I think I would be very disappointed.
Lucy Jones would actually be. She has the the theater experience.
Mhm.
I mean, if it was coming in the UK,
She's
starting in
coming
the
to
I
UK,
Miami
would
in
say
like
it's Lucy
2026.
Jones
I would
as
say
Secret immediately.
absolutely, like she would be my number one for that role.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Right.
Lorene for Secret. I'm starting this campaign now.
Right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you, folks, for joining us as we yap about Story of Fire Saga, the musical. We have been the Eurovision Site. We're all big theatre nerds, so if you want to yell at us or give us your fantasy casting pop that in the comments down there. You know how this goes. Like and subscribe. We are on every social media thing out there as well, and you can find our personal social medias if you like this that much. You can find those in the description as well. We will be yapping about Eurovision and all of its various assorted extra things, like, Fire Saga musical, um, up until the new year, and obviously through the new Eurovision year. So do stick with us. And all that remains to say is thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lewis, for joining me.
Thank
And
you for
we
being
will
with us,
see
kittens.
you another time. Bye.
Bye.
So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Adieu.
Goodbye.